Hi and welcome to Empowering Your English Voice. The objective here is to help you sound better and speak your best. Today in this video, you're going to learn 5 top tips for preparing your presentation or talk in English, especially if you are a non-native speaker of English. When you prepare a presentation well, it helps reduce anxiety and increase your confidence. And that's what I hope to help you with today by preparing your presentation or talk to make you a little bit more perfect. Let's begin then with the first point. So the first point is your audience. Who are you going to speak to? This is very important if you're a native speaker and especially if you're a non-native speaker. You should find out as much as you can about the people you are speaking to, about your audience. For example, where are they from? What level of English do you think they have? What knowledge do they have of your topic that you're going to talk about? This is important because you want everybody to understand you. What that means for you is to pitch or give your presentation at the right level. In English, we say that a fleet is only as fast as its slowest ship. So even if you have a fast ship going like this, it cannot go faster than the slowest one. Now, you don't have to give your presentation at a level for the lowest level person in the audience, but it should be at an average level so that most of the people can understand what you're saying, because really that's the whole objective or point of your presentation. Everybody should understand you. And that might mean that if you have a very good level, you may have to bring it down a little. And if you have a lower level, you may have to try and increase it somehow. Interesting points. Let's move on now to point number 2, which is related to this. Point number 2. Now you know your audience, where they're from, their level, what they know about your topic, you hope, and I hope. You can organize and create the material and the content for that audience. That means for you, as a non-native speaker, you can research the language that you need for that presentation or talk. Specific words, specific phrases that maybe you don't know. This is the moment to look up, to find those words, those phrases, and maybe some grammatical expressions that will help to create more quality and depth and complexity to your presentation. A second very important point here is that you need to prepare your slides very carefully. Many native as well as non-native speakers put far too much information on each slide. Remember, your slides should follow a logical order that helps support your argument or your subject, whatever you're saying. If you put too much information on there, it's going to distract your audience. In the end, you're just reading with the audience as if you are a mother or a father reading to your children before bedtime. And do you know what? That's not professional. Do you do that because it makes you feel more confident? Do you feel that maybe you're going to forget some of those words or phrases? It's very, very typical. If you're giving the presentation online, some people write notes below the slides that nobody else can see. But if you are giving a live presentation, you can't do that. What it means is that you'll have to do some extra preparation and practice and rehearsal. But it's so much more professional. A good image and 1, 2 or 3 bullet points to support the slide and your argument. Let's move now on to point number 3. What is your level of English? Are you proficiency? Are you advanced? Upper intermediate? Intermediate? Lower? If you are lower than maybe an upper intermediate, you need to think very carefully about if you are ready to give certain types of talks or presentations. Whatever, knowing your level is knowing your limits and your potential when you're giving a talk or a presentation, your strengths and your weaknesses. This is important because, for example, if there are certain words or phrases that you find difficult to use or difficult to pronounce, then the best thing is perhaps to avoid those phrases and substitute them with synonyms. The audience won't know that you've changed it and made it simpler. It'll also make you feel much more confident when you're giving the presentation. So think about that. Point number 4. 4 is proofreading. What's that? Well, it means checking and correcting your speech, your script. Have you written out your script? Have you typed it? If you haven't, wait for point number 5. I have an important tip for you. Having a native speaker check your vocabulary and your grammar will make a very, very big difference to the way other people perceive you when you're giving your speech, and also how they will understand you. If there are any ambiguities in there or any bad mistakes, people won't understand you. Another very important point is the image that it gives. So, if you want to give a professional image, get somebody to check the vocabulary and the grammar. And especially check your slides. Get someone to look at them. I've seen many students and many presentations that have spelling mistakes or even grammar mistakes in the title of the presentation. And sometimes they don't even spell a name correctly. So ensure that your slides are perfect and professional. Get someone to proofread your script and your slides. Now we're ready for the 5th and very important point. It's maybe something that you haven't thought of before, so don't go anywhere. So, top tip number 5, sound scripting. Sound scripting basically means taking your script and dividing the sentences into smaller parts or chunks. The objective is to put the places where you're going to pause, take a breath, and also where you'll change intonation going up and then going down. Have you ever done that before? Have you ever written out the complete script for your talk or for your presentation? What do you feel like when you hear that? Is it, oh my God, that's so much work. I'd never be able to do that. If not, then well, what you could possibly do is just prepare the intro and the outro, or the last part, which is the parts that most people remember, if you don't have any other more time to do so. Huge difference being able to work on the sounds that you're making, your vocal quality. We're going to look at an example right now, because there's nothing better than an example, is there? And here you have it. I'm going to read this just like the original text would be, with no sound scripting. You've probably heard the saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But how many of you here today actually do that? Well, that's what it sounds like when you read it in just a normal voice. But let's look at the same text now with sound scripting. This is where we have divided the sentence into different chunks or parts where you're going to breathe. Now, if I read it like the text which has been sound scripted, this is what it sounds like. You've probably heard the saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But how many of you here today actually do that? So, the big difference is that we are breaking the text into different parts. Very, very experienced speakers would probably say, well, I do that anyway, and they're probably right. But if you are a non-native speaker, this could make a huge difference to the way you give your presentation. It makes you focus on the intonation, where to breathe, where to pause. This could be the difference that makes the difference. Yes, it's a lot of work, but if you have to give a very important presentation, it's definitely worth the time that you are going to invest in doing it. Take my advice, write out at least the introduction if you think you have not enough time, and the end, the beginning and the end, the parts that people remember the most. So those are the 5 top tips today. So if you've enjoyed this video and you've found value in it, then give me a like, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be doing more videos on tips and tricks to help you with your English, to make you sound better and speak your best, and more than anything, empower your English voice. So, see you again very soon. Bye-bye.